I knew that in order to win her love.
I needed to climb out of gold with whatever jank I had lying around.
Yeah. Come on!
Telefon, how do Konami print you without a hard once per turn?
I'm a telephone. I don't know nothing about how I do anything. Whoa!
Hey gang, your favorite gadget gamer, Mad Matt's back. I'm back with you again with some serious jank. This deck, actually I don't really have a real name for the deck because the deck is really just this one card right here, Morphtronic I was inspired by this deck list from Solar off Master Duel Meta, so thank you friend. Feel free to check out his build if you're interested. I've obviously made some changes. If you're not familiar with Telefon, he's a seemingly innocent looking card. He's a level 1 machine tuner from the Morphtronic archetype, which has historically been, pretty not great. His effect is once per turn while he's in attack, roll a 6-sided die. Then you can special summon one Morphtronic monster from your graveyard with a level less than or equal to the die roll. You might notice a couple problems with the way that effect is written. For one, the effect does not exclude special summoning a Morphtronic Telefon from the grave. Also, that effect is a soft once per turn. So with Morphtronic Telefon being a level 1, the effect might as well just read special summon Morphtronic Telefon from the grave, because obviously, even if you roll 1 on the die, you're still going to be able to special summon him. So you can probably see where we go from there. You take the Telefon that just uses effect, get them in the grave somehow, either by linking it off or synchroing, since he's also a tuner, and then we can special summon it back with the one we just special summoned, and then you just keep that loop going, and surely nothing degenerate could come from basically infinite summons. Well, obviously I wouldn't have made this video if the answer to that question was no. In sum, we aim to set up the really stupid Telefon loop I just described before, and then summon every single one of the extra deck monsters that we have in here over the turn, and then end on an end board to end all end boards. Before we get into it, I need to say this deck is not good. I went into it with high hopes, but at the end of, after a lot of duels and practicing in solo mode, I would not recommend building this deck. Setting up the loop can be inconsistent as all the setups are like at a minimum 2 cards. There are multiple bricks in the deck, somewhat normal summon reliant. The deck has a snowball chance in hell going second, and you really can't even play through even one interruption, which you'll kind of see in at least one of the duels I have showcasing, or if you've practiced the deck, you probably know what I'm talking about. However, I have prepared a handy infograph on why you might want to take this deck for a spin, and what we have here are the 9 circles of ladder hell, and this is basically shows the variance of what your end boards might look like when playing this deck. In the middle are your typical ladder deck end boards, all varying levels of hell to deal with. Then for our deck down here at the bottom is just total hell when you can't set up the loop because you drew bad or your opponent had some interruptions, so you end up like Telefon pass. And then up here at the top is our best case scenario where this is what happens when you get the loop going and your opponent isn't able to stop that and you end on the dumbest group of synchros ever printed. And the deck is basically either here at the top or here at the bottom. There's really no in between. In sum, no, the deck is not good, but it is funny. So up next, card by card, I did deviate quite a bit from the build I was inspired by. I did try that build, and it could obviously set up the loop and probably sets it up more often than this deck, but it was sort of do or die on the normal summon. So I kind of pivoted and added everyone's favorite new engine, a P.U.N.K engine. I know the ratios I have here for this P.U.N.K engine look jank as hell, but we'll kind of get into my rationale for that. I've included the P.U.N.K engine as a way to have plays without possibly eating up our normal summons, typically just by using E-Telly. But it's also as a way to turbo out Chaos Ruler and then also the Zombie Vampire. One of the main steps of getting the loop set up is getting Telefon in the grave and Chaos Ruler, and also the Zombie Vampire together will mill 9 cards from your deck. And also sometimes Zombie Vampire will just luck sack into a Telefon or someone else that's able to get a Telefon on the board. So they can set up the loop for you. So you do have to get a bit lucky, but running a 40 card deck, it's pretty likely they're going to mill something that matters that'll help you getting this set up. For ratios, for the Telefon loop itself, we're on the 3 Telefon we need to find him, so we're running the max amount. We're on 3 Gizmek Naganaki. He can tribute a monster on board, which also includes himself, in order to special summon a machine-type monster from deck with an attack value equal to their defense. And would you look at that, Telefon has 100 attack and 100 defense. So you can special summon a Telefon from deck with Naganaki. And also another nice thing about Naganaki is he is a light, so you can add him to hand with Chaos Ruler's effect. We are on 1 Gizmek Arakami. Arakami is kind of a brick unless you're able to get a Naganaki on board. So otherwise, drawing Arakami isn't too helpful, so I have him at 1. He is easily searched with probably the all-star of the deck, Small World, which we'll get into later, just how useful this card is in this deck. We're on 3 Gadget Gamers, just an incredible name, just true perfection. Thank you, Konami. On normal summon, he can add Telefon to hand, and then he can then tribute himself to special summon a Morphtronic from hand. And then he's also able to special summon a Gadget Hauler from deck. A Gadget Hauler is a pretty hard garnet in the deck, but it means if you open Gadget Gamer and a Telefon in hand, you have full combo, because Gadget Hauler can send a Telefon from hand to grave. So you pretty much have to run him. Run 1 Foolish Burial as a way to send Telefon to grave as one possible way to set up the loop. Run triple Machine Duplication. Machine Dupe is like one of those Yu-Gi-Oh cards that will be broken for basically forever and ever. But Telefon is a dupe target because he has less than 500 attack. So if you're able to get a Telefon on board, dupe plus Telefon on board is full combo. So we're on 3 Machine Duplication. We're on 1 for 1 as another great way to get a Telefon on board and not use up your normal summon. Unfortunately, we can only run it at 1, but when you stack into it, you probably have full combo. For the P.U.N.K engine, we really need to save our normal summon for something like Gadget Gamer, Gizmag Naganaki, or even just Telefon. So I really don't want to use my normal summon on Zeamin. So ideally we get Zeamin with Iteli, but I am on 2 just because this card can full combo to Chaos Ruler and the Zombie Vampire. And so if I did happen to draw one, if I have Iteli in hand, I still have full combo. And sometimes you do, if you are desperate, you do need to use up your normal summon on Zeamin. So we are on 2. We're on 1 Deer Note as a way to make a level 8 Synchro. I basically will always be Chaos Ruler for the line. And then you can immediately go into the Zombie Vampire with Deer Note's other effect, which is special summon a level 8 from Grave. We're on triple Ogre Dance as, for one, just a way to bait out Ash Blossoms, but also to search Zeamin if you need to normal summon him for our play, or to search out a Deer Note if you're able to use Deer Note's in-hand effect. We're on 2 Itelis, probably one of our strongest starters. It sets up the entire Chaos Ruler line without using up our normal summon, so great to see on our hands. So we're running at the max amount we can. For non-engine, because we really need our combo to go off, and the combo requires multiple pieces, we really can't afford to fill up the deck with a bunch of non-engines, so unfortunately we can't run the biggest hand trap lineup. I'm on 2 Max C. I wanted to keep the deck at 40, and we basically lose like 90% of our duels going second, so I'm not sure how much 1 more Max C might help with that. So we're just on 2 because he is insane when we are able to use him, but also as a cross-out target, and he's also one of the best small world bridges in the deck because he's Earth and he's level 2. So he just lines up really nicely with a bunch of the monsters in the deck. We're on 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Called By and the Crossout, just as solid staple cards to run, but mostly as our Max C counters. We're on 2 O-Lion. Since Telefon is a machine, we can use the loop to go into Auroradon. Yeah, good job, Konami. Thanks for leaving this card in the format. But we're on the 2 O-Lion, just in case we draw one. That means our Auroradon is still live. He also works as a solid small world bridge because he's wind, but he's also a machine. So he just ends up lining up nicely for small world. We're on 1 Nemesis Corridor just to search with Cupid Pitch, and then summon Thunder Colossus for free, just as part of our end board. And then we're on 1 Duster just as, the F Floodgates or whatever else you're running into. We're on triple Small World. The way the deck lines up, this ends up being one of the best Small World decks that I've really ever seen. Every monster all has like just one thing different about them, whether that's level, stat values, or attribute. And you're able to just put together some pretty solid bridges with basically any monster you end up seeing in your opening hand. You're probably able to get into whatever card you need at the moment. And just as an example, here's an example of all the Telefon bridges from the deck. Sometimes you don't always want to add Telefon, but I just wanted to show this as an example. For example, sometimes you'll want to find Arakami, like I said before, and him being a machine that isn't Earth makes it pretty easy with pretty much any monster in the deck. Small World isn't always the easiest card to use. My recommendation is just take your time with it, get used to what some of the lines are, or I suggest just trying out the Small World Bridge Finder website, which I'll link down below. You can put together like a .ydk file on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck, and then upload that into the Small World's Bridge Finder, and it'll give you all the bridges for the deck. A very handy tool if you've never played with it before. For the extra deck, the card is either in here to link or synchro climb with, or it's just part of our end board, but we'll go through it real quick. We're on 1 Colossus because we have no issue searching Nemesis Corridor, and Colossus is just a strong boss monster that we can set up to lock our opponent's searches, and he has built-in protection. We're on 1 Herald of the Arclight, just as an Omni Negate we can easily set up. We're on 1 Cupid Pitch as a way to sync for higher level synchros, and also as a way to search Nemesis Corridor. We're on 1 TG Hyper Librarian. You'll go into Librarian early, and you'll typically get 6 draws from him for the full combo line. I will say that's not as broken as it seems since we're running so few hand traps or really other useful non-engine cards. You'll mostly be drawing into garbage, so maybe you want to switch up the main deck more to take more advantage of that. But that's just going to take someone just smarter and better at deck building than me to put that together. We're on one Charge Warrior. Since Telefon is only level 1, we need some cards of each star level in order to be able to climb up to the higher ones, so Charge Warrior's in there just as our level 6. And you just draw the card, so why not? We're on one Dawn Dragster. In the full combo, you only use him for climbing to a level 8, but if you open the P.U.N.K line, Dawn Dragster becomes part of your end board, which you'll see in the combo that I'll get into. He's also not the worst card to have in Grave, because like after you've used up your Barone negate, you probably want to tag out Barone and just something more useful. So like with Dawn Dragster in the grave, he's just possibly a solid target for you to do that with. You could switch out Dawn Dragster for Adagnist or Wind Pegasus just as extra interruption you could set up in the grave, but that's just going to be preference there. We're on one Borreload as part of our end board. We get to attach Auroradon to this bad boy, so he'll be an Omni Negate and have over 4,000 attack. Pretty crazy. We're on one Chaos Ruler. He can stack the grave for you, but more importantly, he's an 8-star synchro we can use twice to climb with. So we'll use him once to go into a Barone and a second time to make the next card up, which is Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. Just another Omni Negate, and he's a beefy lad, pretty crazy to go into, and he's also an Omni Negate pretty much each turn, so very solid. We're on the one Ravenous Crocker Dragon. He won't be on the board long. You're typically just using him to sync off for Barone, but he does draw a card on summon, which is nice, and you could consider keeping him on the board as possible interruption since he does have a pop. And thanks to TG Hyper Librarian, he'll have like 1 million attack, but I think just getting the Barone on board is more important. And then we're on, of course, the lad himself, one Barone de Fleur, as just an Omni Negate to set up, also can pop cards. Great card if you can go into it. I don't know why you wouldn't. We're on the one Zombie Vampire as for when you really need to get it twisted and dump something into the grave to get your combo train rolling. Just because the P.U.N.K line can go into it so easily, we're on the Zombie Vampire. On one Link Karibo as a way to link off Telefon. Link Karibo can also be part of your end board, but generally his use is if, like, suppose you have 2 Telefons on board, you link one of them off for Link Karibo, then activate the other to revive it. Now you have 3 monsters on board, then you'll go into the Barricade board blocker. Don't worry about his effect. The main part is he's the next monster you link climb to, and then he's machine, so he's able to go into Auroradon. And obviously with Auroradon, you're off to the races. So up next is the combo portion of the video, but first I'll quickly show you some of the ways to get the Telefon loop set up. These are just some like the general basic ways. There might be some other ones that you're able to find. I mean, it's not the hardest thing to get set up, so you'll kind of figure it out as you start playing the deck. After that, I have some duels to showcase the deck in action. Please note these duels are very cherry-picked. I didn't win every single one of the games, but I was not about to upload a bunch of duels of me scooping to Sword Soul or any other deck where I lost the coin flip to, and they were able to put up a single interruption. After that, I have some other cards you might want to consider, and then some final thoughts. But with that, let's see what the deck can do. So real quick, I just want to show off some of the simple ways to set up the loop. There's probably some other ones in the deck, and there's some other cards I didn't include in the deck that can get the loop set up. You can look those up. I've included some of them in the other cards to consider section, but I just wanted to review this real quick, so let's get into it. So this first one just requires Telefon on board and then Machine Dupe. You're just going to activate Machine Dupe, target Telefon. And you could summon the second one here, but you don't need it, so I typically just summon one. And then you'll just link either of them off for Link Karibo. And now you're set up. For this next one, it's going to be like 1-for-1 or Foolish Burial, and then just some other way to get a Telefon on board. So for this example, just 1-for-1, you know, special summon them, make sure you special summon them in attack mode. And for this example, we've got Gadget Gamer. So activate Gadget Gamer, add Telefon to hand, activate Gadget Gamer's effect, special summon Telefon. It's nothing too complicated. None of these are. Link one off for Link Karibo, and there you go. That's it. This one requires exactly Gadget Gamer and then an extra Telefon in hand. So activate Gadget Gamer, you'll add Telefon to hand. Activate Gadget Gamer's effect. Tribute himself, special summon a Telefon from hand. As always, make sure Telefon's always getting special summoned in attack mode. And then you'll summon Gadget Hauler from deck. Activate Gadget Hauler's effect. You will tribute off Telefon, and now you have the loop set up. Just make sure you activate this Telefon's effect before you link him off. This setup requires both of the Gizmex enhanced. You'll normal summon Naganaki, then you'll special summon Arakami. You'll activate Naganaki's effect, target Arakami, send him to the grave. That's going to allow you to special summon a Telefon from deck. Now you'll activate Arakami's in-grave effect, you'll target Naganaki, and that will allow you to send a Telefon to the grave, and that will set up the loop for you. And as always, make sure you activate the Telefon's effect before you link him off. And from here, you're going to go link Karibo, so you can special summon him later, and then you'll link off these two for Barricade Board Blocker. And then after that, you'll go into Auroradon and keep comboing from there. So now that you know how to get this loop set up, let's go ahead and get into the actual combo line itself, and you'll see how we achieve our desired end board by using this. So first things first, let's go ahead and get the Telefon loop set up. For this instance, we're going to start off by normal summoning Naganaki, tribute him off, just to get a Telefon on board, and then we have the machine dupe in hand. And just so that's quits bugging me, I'm going to go ahead and set it on the board, so we'll activate machine dupe, and we'll special summon one of our Telefons. Link off one of the Telefons for Link Karibo. Activate Telefon's effect. And this is going to take a little bit, so buckle up. And like I said, this isn't a particularly hard combo, but it does take a while to go through the entire line. So then you'll link the Telefon and the Link Karibo off for Barricade Board Blocker. Make sure you're using the Telefon that already used its effect anytime you're linking them off. And then we will bring back Telefon again. And now we will link off the one that already used his effect and Barricade Board Blocker, because he is a machine, in order to go into Auroradon. You'll activate Auroradon, special summon 3 tokens. Make sure you activate Telefon's effect before you tribute him off the board with Auroradon. Bring back Telefon, and as always, make sure Telefon's being summoned in attack, because he does have a different effect when he's in defense. Please remember that. So you'll tribute off the Telefon that's used its effect, and you will summon O-Lion. You'll synchro off O-Lion and one of the tokens for TG Hyper Librarian. Make sure you put Hyper Librarian in the EMZ just to free up space. Activate O-Lion's effect to recover a token. Activate Telefon's effect, bring back another Telefon. And now we'll start the synchro combo portion. So just set up a negate now. We will go ahead and go into Herald with our Telefon that's already used its effect. And that'll of course draw us a card for free. Activate Telefon's effect. Special summon Telefon. Synchro off a token, and the Telefon's use its effect for Cupid Pitch. It's going to activate Hyper Librarian, activate Cupid Pitch, and we're going to select Increase Level, which will increase Cupid Pitch to a level 5. Activate Telefon, bring back Telefon. Now you'll sync Cupid Pitch and the token for Chaos Ruler. And then make sure you do not actually activate Chaos Ruler's effect here. We don't want to mill Nemesis Corridor. There's really no reason we need to mill anything, so there's no reason to use Chaos Ruler here. So activate Hyper Librarian. I usually do Hyper Librarian Chainlink 1, Cupid Pitch Chainlink 2, just so we don't accidentally draw Nemesis Corridor with Hyper Librarian. And then Cupid Pitch's effect, add Nemesis Corridor, and then TG Hyper Librarian will just draw some random card. And we did not activate Chaos Ruler, like I said before, because we didn't want to accidentally mill Nemesis Corridor there. So now we're going to use a Telefon that's already used its effect to go into Ravenous Croco Dragon. Activate both their effects to draw. Make sure you don't activate Croco Dragon's other effect to destroy a card. Activate Telefon anytime you need to. Make sure you have the space on board. Make sure you're summoning an attack. Those are my biggest recommendations. I can't go over those enough. You will completely ruin your line if you mess that up. But you'll synchro these two off for Barone. And then guess what we're going to do next? Well, of course, Hyper Librarian's going to draw another card, because why not? We're going to activate Telefon's effect. We're going to bring back a Telefon. So now we're going to bring back Chaos Ruler. And the hilarious part is Cupid Pitch and Barricade Board Blocker are light and dark respectively, which just ends up working out perfectly for Chaos Ruler. So they're usually the two I'll banish. And then we'll just synchro these two off for Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. And we're almost finished with the line now. Activate Telefon. And we're bringing back Telefon. And now we're unfortunately going to have to lose Hyper Librarian. I mean, he only drew 1,000,000 cards. Unfortunately, we won't get to draw 1,000,001. But we do go into Stardust Charge Warrior, because why not just draw one more card? Maybe it's the one card we are missing to win the game. And now activate Telefon. Bring back Telefon. And if you're not watching this video at 2x speed, I'd probably recommend it. And then you'll sync these two off for F.A. Dawn Dragster. Activate Telefon a last time. And then this time you'll want to special summon Telefon in defense mode. It's not a big deal if you don't, but I usually do. And then you'll synchro these two off for Borreload. Activate Borreload. Target Auroradon. Special summon Nemesis Corridor. I usually just put Chaos Ruler back in deck. Maybe that comes up. And then use him to special summon Colossus. And now you can use that defense mode Telefon to possibly stack your deck, if it matters at all. Sure, we'll put Ash on the top. Maybe that comes up. And then last, you will bring back Link Karibo by tributing off that Telefon on the board. And this is our final end board. As you can see, we have the Omni Negate from Barone, the Negate from Hot Red Dragon, we have Colossus, we have Borreload, we have Herald. And of course, set your spells because you are going to have to discard a bunch of cards. Even if you're discarding a bunch of cards, not that big a deal. We're pretty much do or die on this board. So this is, for whatever reason, the cards in your hand don't have a way for you to set up the loop like I described before. You'll want to go through the P.U.N.K line. So in this instance, we'll go ahead and activate Emergency Teleport. I should make it clear that this is the backup line. If you can get the loop set up without doing P.U.N.K stuff, I definitely recommend doing it that way. But anyway, we're going to activate E-Tele to get Zeaman. Zeaman's going to search out Foxtune. We'll activate Foxtune's effect to get Deer Note, and then we will sync these two off of Chaos Ruler. This time you are going to activate Chaos Ruler because we're trying to find some card to get the combo off the ground, or just a way to make the loop happen. So you activate Chaos Ruler Chainlink 1, I usually do Deer Note Chainlink 2. You're going to bring back a level 8 because that's going to allow us to go into Zombie Vampire after Chaos Ruler's effect resolves. And ideally, he's going to mill a Telefon or something else that's going to allow your combo to go off at this point. In this instance, he found Naganaki, which is going to allow us to full combo with the other Gizmek in our hand. So normally at this point, you would go into the Zombie Vampire, but we have the loop set up in our hand, so we're not going to go into Zombie Vampire because there's no need to. We just normal summon Naganaki, special summon Arakami, activate Naganaki, tribute Arakami, and then you'll special summon Telefon. And then you'll activate Arakami in order to get the other Telefon into the grave. And now we just have to go about clearing off some of these other monsters on our board. Because we don't have to go into the Zombie Vampire, we can luckily sync off Chaos Ruler here. So we'll just use him now to go into Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. Activate Telefon. Bring back Telefon. And then I'll just start kind of wasting my materials here. We'll link these two off for Barricade Board Blocker just to get them off my zones, get them off my board. And then use the Telefon that's already used its effect in order to go into Auroradon. And unfortunately, our zones are clogged because we had to go into Hot Red Dragon at that point. So at this point, we are going to have to activate Auroradon's effect and tribute one of our tokens instead of a Telefon that's already used this effect. We can't use Telefon here because we need to leave him on the board in order to keep the loop going. But we're still going to special summon O-Lion, and then we're still going to go into TG Hyper Librarian at this point. Activate O-Lion to get a token back on the board. And now we can start looping the Telefons, now that we've got the space cleared up. The major difference here, because we had to lose one extra token, we're not going to be able to go into Herald at this point, so we just go straight into Cupid Pitch now. Make sure you're still increasing Cupid Pitch's level. And at this point, you'll sync these two off for Borreload, because remember, we already used Chaos Ruler before. Hyper Librarian Chainlink 1, Cupid Pitch Chainlink 2, and we'll search out Nemesis Corridor. And then Borreload Chainlink 3. Target Auroradon. Now we can bring back Chaos Ruler. Get out the Crocodile. Draw more cards because we can. We've got this board space, and we've got a Telefon that can activate, so let's go and do it. Get out Barone. Going to Star's Charge Warrior, and then because we already have Borreload on the board, we already use Chaos Roller, we have no more low-late Synchros in the deck. Activate Telefon, bring back Telefon again. And that last Telefon probably should have been a defense. It's not that big a deal. But we'll sync these two off for Epidon Dragster in this time. Dragster will be part of our end board. This is another possible interruption. So we're going to special summon Nemesis Corridor. And then go into Colossus. And then if that Telefon was on defense, we would have stacked our deck. But otherwise, just set some spells from our hands so we don't have to discard as many, and then we have our final end. And sure, we'll just activate it here because you can just gain some life points, why not? So that pretty much covers the combo line. Like I said before, it's not too complicated. There's just a lot of steps, and you just have to pay attention pretty much the whole time. But up next, I have some duels just to showcase the deck in actual action, so sit back and enjoy. Alright, so this first duel is going to be what usually happens when you play this deck. So you can see we have the loop in hand, we got Gadget Gamer and Telefon. So we can try to loop here, we're going to activate his effect. He's going to max C. We do have the called by for that, so maybe we can actually make this happen. Telefon, summon Hauler, activate Hauler. We're going to activate Telefon, he's going to need an Imperm, and we lose the duel there on the spot. Cool. And we scoop it up. GG. So this is the other usual experience for the deck. Looks like we've got Telefon and Machine Dupe, so let's make that happen. No interruption from my opponent. Link off for Link Karibo, and I'm going to speed things up a bit here now as I combo off a bit, just because you're probably sick of watching it. Go into Auroradon, Telefon, bring back Telefon, go for O-Line, CG Hyper Librarian, Telefon, bring back Telefon, Telefon, bring back Telefon, keep pitch, Telefon, bring back Telefon, and at that my opponent figures out what's going on and scoops it up. GG, I guess. So what happens when I actually get to combo up? Let's find out. So I open up with this Smart World, even though I already have full combo and trying to bait out an Ash for other interruption he has. And I got a read at that point that you can't see in the replay that he had something chainable that didn't activate, so I figured it was Max C. So I did the Super Pro game remove and had Ash Blossom off of Small World, which ended up winning me the game because he did indeed have the Max C. We negated that. We're going to go ahead and do full combo now. And of course, yeah, I'm speeding this up for you. So how's your day going today? Not too bad? Yeah, that's good. That's good. You catch the game? Yeah, it was a game. You're right, yeah. Anyway, the duel. Okay, so yeah, we've got that board. It's looking pretty good. Let's see if my opponent can do anything to it. Ooh, he actually has a Kaiju, and he's going to Slumber, but we're obviously going to negate that. He's going to go to battle phase. He's going to try to evenly match. We will negate that too. And he's going to set an end. Cool deck. So you can see, even against like a dedicated going second strategy, we still got a pretty insane deck. And because we already used that for Barone negate, we'll just tag him out to get back our red dragon edge, because why not? And we've got Beyond Lethal forward. And that's when your opponent doesn't scoop, that's typically how the game ends. GG. This next one really shows just how nice Small World is in the deck. You can see that Deer Note in hand, but luckily Deer Note is Earth, so you're going to Deer Note to Gadget Gamer, and now we have the loop with Gadget Gamer and Telefon in hand. Gadget Gamer search Telefon, activate the effect, tribute off, special summon Telefon, special summon Gadget Hauler, activate Gadget Hauler, send to grave, and we'll go off from here. Auroradon, Telefon, you know, O-Line, Token, Synchro, yep. I could go through it every time, but I think you've gotten the gist. I guess I'll just shut up, let you enjoy the music. And it looks like we are on Planet Pathfinder, so we know what deck that probably means. Ooh, and it's set 5 pass. What a spectacular deck. Let's see what we can do. Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and fire Barone just to pop one of his things. Gonna activate Trap. Yeah, we'll negate those. Gonna activate Rivalry. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Go get him, Barone. Yep. Pop. Yep. Yeah, I'll see you later. Another very cool game. So can this deck win going second? Well, I'll tell you just for my games, generally not, but let's see what happens for this one. I guess it can win going second if we're bullying Dark Magician, so yeah, let's do it. We'll fire the Ash there, why not? He actually drew one of our hand traps. And he sets one and ends. Alright, let's see what we can make happen. We're gonna go ahead and go for the P.U.N.K line. He's got the Max C. We've got our second Ash. Just the better gamer, I guess. We'll summon Telefon. We'll activate Machine Dupe. We'll get all 3, just in case that set card is something that matters. And it absolutely is. It is skill drain. Just super cool. We're just gonna summon the strongest monster in our. We're just going to special summon Arakami because we can, and then that's going to allow us to synchro over Teach Happy Librarian. We're trying to get a big dingus on board, the biggest dingus we can, and we'll pass from there. Let's see what we can make happen here. he is going to get out a Dark Magician, and I guess that actually matters when the biggest monster I have on my board is Teach the Librarian. I'm going to special summon Backlink Karibo here, and he didn't realize I can't activate Link Karibo here, so you know, just sometimes you just gotta, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and it worked. So we got to keep our Librarian, and now we have Sayaman Enhanced. Now we can Synchro for a level 8 Synchro, and 3,000 attacks more than 2,500, so now I have the upper hand with Skill Drain. What just a cool card to run. Just really makes for just these super interesting, awesome games. Thank you, Konami, for keeping it in the game. So he's just going to try to start setting. I guess he's going to wait till he finds something. Nemesis Corridor off the top is kind of cool because he's a level 4 1900, so I guess we take those, clear his board. So he's in a little bit of a sticky situation. Can't believe the best card in Dark Magician Skill Drain isn't winning the game on the spot. And he's going to activate Soul Serve there. We're going to hit him with a third Ash Blossom. I guess it's only fair you Skill Drain me, I triple Ash Blossom you, and he scoops out from there. Fun game, I guess. GG. I know how much you guys love watching the combo, so why don't we watch it one more time? Small World for Gadget Gamer, because got Telefon in hand, that's going to set up the loop. Get Telefon. Special Summon Telefon. Mauler's going to send the other Telefon to grave. Going to Super Speed. Roardon. Telefon. O-Lion. Librarian. Herald. Telefon. Cupid Pitch. Librarian. Chaos Ruler. Corridor. Crocodile. Draw. Telefon. Baron. Chaos Ruler again. Yeah. You might argue I should have just cut these out from the video, but I don't know. I like watching the timer be nice and big. So there's the board again. We did it. I didn't do Link Karibo because for whatever reason I figured out that was like a thing that I could do before that mattered. I did Cyber Dragon, so I was actually able to clear that monster out of my EMZ, so that's a little annoying, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do much else from there. He's going to go to battle. I don't know why he didn't attack over the Herald. I was getting a little too greedy with my Herald. I don't know why I wasn't using that for the gate earlier. Usually I was using Barone because I knew I could tag the Barone out. But from here we just have a very easy GG. Always appreciate the individuals willing to sit through my combos just so I can get into the video, so thank you, friend. And you asked for it, so we got another duel for you. And with Small World, that's going to allow us to get the full line. So now we've got the 2 Gizmecs, and we know that's full combo, so let's make that happen. Small World just so good in this deck, does basically everything you need it to. And this time I actually did remember to get Link Karibo, and it's actually going to come up. So he's going to Duster. That really doesn't do anything. He's going to Fire Forgeki. I obviously have to negate that. And he's going to do a pretty decent job at playing around my negates. If he's not going to activate anything, I can't respond to it. So he's actually going to put up kind of a board. He's going to activate that effect. I'll go ahead and negate. Probably an argument to destroy it there, but I was trying to hold the Herald for that. And if that Link Karibo is really going to come in handy here, he will clear the Herald there. Like I said, I was getting too greedy with my Heralds. But from here, it should be easy cleanup job for Barone. Just activate the effect, pop his big dude, go to battle, and then we'll just get enough damage on board for lethal. I didn't calc it out. I probably already had enough damage. But let's just go ahead and summon another big Opinions because why not? And GG. It's always nice to see someone actually play kind of smart, see if they're able to break it. So well played, friend. Before I start this section, I do want to add there are a few cards missing from Master Duel that will vastly improve this deck. These three that I'm showing on the screen now will make searching and setting up the Telefon loop so much easier. So who knows, maybe we'll have to revisit this deck once we finally get them. Anyway, the obligatory staple lineup. I know the staple lineup I'm currently running is extremely poor, and perhaps that's partially to blame for the deck's poor performance. So if you're able to make a build that runs a higher hand trap lineup and still get the loop and combos rolling, let me know. I'd like to take a look. You could run Magician Souls and IOC as a way to try to fix your hands, possibly get some extra card draw, or just a way to bait out hand traps. Magician Souls could also possibly be an extender for the deck as a level 1. You could run Card Destruction as a possibly not bad way to mill Telefon into the grave, but also as an extremely sacky way to win when you decide to take the Max C challenge. There are some other Morphtronics you could run if you're a gambling man. Cellphone might be for you. He is also a soft once per turn if he hits a Telefon. That's actually insane. It might just win you the duel. But otherwise, you're just kind of using up your normal summon when I think there are other cards that are more impactful. Junkbox is there in Archetype Monster Reborn. Could possibly be a way to get the loop set up, but most of the times I think it's just going to brick your hand when you don't find ways to like get a Telefon in the grave. Morphtronic Converter is just such a weird card. Like it plus Gadget Gamer is another way to set up a loop. There are some other cards it gets the job done with, but I just found it so awkward and bricky in the hands, I ended up cutting it for some other cards. You could run Where Art Thou as a way to search Telefon, but Where Art Thou is such a weird searcher where you already need to control level 1 on a board in order to activate it, and if you do add a Telephone to hand, it doesn't necessarily do you much good if you can't normal summon it or get that card into grave. I didn't include them here. I don't own them, but you could possibly make a build work that works with the new Ishizu cards, just as a way to mill into the grave to get the cards, to get the loop set up. So if someone has a build for that, let me know. I'd be interested to see that. For the extra deck, synchro-wise, you could run the Morphtronic level 4 synchro, and then that would allow you to summon Naturia Beast, since this synchro is an Earth and then Telefon's an Earth. You'd probably have to cut Herald from the end board, and you'd also need 2 extra deck slots, and space is already pretty tight. But the Naturia Beast is extremely strong right now, so maybe you want to try that. Like I said earlier, you could try Wind Pegasus since you're typically just climbing through the level 7. He's just interesting interruption that works from the grave. You might want to run him over Dawn Dragster. You can usually end on 2 Telefons on board, so you could use them to exceed into Ensemble Robin, just as even more interruption. But I ended up cutting her just for space for some other cards because she wasn't really needed for the board we were getting. So the build I put together was a synchro version, and you aren't necessarily locked into synchro monsters because infinite synchro materials also generally means infinite link materials, and it turns out that is also good. You could change the deck to be some sort of link spam deck and then include every BS link monster offender that you can think of. You know, your Verte, your DP, Dagda, Scythe, Apollo USA. You could even include, you can probably even set up a board that uses Tri-State Wizard. Someone smarter than me might be able to think up some way to make a U-Link with the loop. But at the end of the day, the deck has almost infinite materials. You're just limited by the extra deck. So go nuts. That's pretty much it for other cards I have for you to consider. Up next, I'll give you some final thoughts on the deck. If there's some other cards you think I should have put in here, please let me know below. So yeah, it's hard to think of a deck that would be more feast or famine. When you get to pop off with this deck, you get to pop off. When you don't, we just won't talk about that. Sort of like what Genie said, infinite cosmic power, itty bitty living space. In terms of strength, just insane end boards, build basically whatever board you want. It doesn't even have to be the board I was doing. It's pretty customizable. There is even an FTK version of the deck, which I won't go over now, but if you're interested, look that up. For other strengths, the deck is reasonably consistent at setting up the loop. It's really not too hard in a vacuum. Like I said earlier, Small World does wonders for the deck, and until Konami finally decides to address, you know, Chaos Ruler and Zombie Vampire, I'm going to mill 9 in every deck that even sort of slightly benefits. In terms of weakness, hand traps, obviously we can't play through Max C. But also, so many choke points in the deck. That means we're not really playing through even a single imperm, and we're definitely not playing through an established board. So that basically there goes going second. Also, I know I've said it a couple times, infinite summons, but it's really not. you're actually limited by whatever you have in your extra deck. And for synchros, you got to climb 1 star at a time, so that means 3 or 4 of our slots are taken up just by monsters. We need to climb through. If you did the link version of the deck, you're going to be limited to only climbing 1 link material at a time. So that's going to also eat up a good chunk of your extra deck. And basically that means our line is going to use up our entire extra deck to set up our single board. So if that does end up getting clear, there's no chance you're ever coming back with this deck. And that's just a general summary of some of the issues with the deck. However, in terms of fun, this deck is hilariously fun. I mean, this is just beyond degenerate as far as combo decks go. I don't understand how Auroradon is still in the game. And there's also something sort of satisfying assembling the Avengers of Synchro monsters, just using this stupid little dinky landline telephone. Not only are you summoning like 40 times in a turn, your opponent also has to sit there and watch you roll a die each time. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, you'll kind of get a kick out of this deck. In terms of price, it's not cheap. I'm extremely pleased that Telefon is only a rare. I'll never understand how they choose rarity sometimes, but the main deck has quite a few supers. But there are some staples in here, like the E-Tellies, and I would even consider Small World in there as well as, like Foolish. You'll get quite a bit of mileage out of them. For the extra deck, obviously, very, very, very pricey. But like I said before, the extra deck is whatever you can make it. You can probably put together a fairly affordable version if you're willing to get somewhat creative. In sum, Telefon is absolutely just an absurd card, but I wouldn't recommend really going out of your way to build this deck. If you have most of the pieces and want to screw around, this deck is perfect for that. The wins you get will be some of the cheesiest you've ever seen, or just some of the quickest scoops you've ever seen once your opponent realizes what's going on. And that's pretty much all I have for you regarding this deck. If you have any other thoughts or questions, feel free to post them below. Thank you for stopping by and watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you like the video and want to see more of the maddest of mats, I also greatly appreciate any likes, comments, or subscriptions. But that's it for me. Once again, so long, and I'll see ya!